some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Two. Hello. Let's see here. Let's see here. Can I get the mic to pick up a squeak? Good question. This cheese is very squeaky as well. Sometimes you get the squeaky cheese and it doesn't squeak properly and it's like, what is this? What's going on here? Can you hear that? How was that? Was that good for you? Did it work? Did you pick up a squeak there? Didn't hear a squeak, just gross chewing. Okay. Good. Well, I tried. I think you would need one of those like throat mics. One of those mukbang throat mics. What are you talking about? Well, I was just eating these cheese curds. Hello, Dane. And thanks for the raid. I hope your stream was good today. And cheese curds are also known as squeaky cheese because when you eat it, it makes a squeaky sound. It goes ee. It makes a little squeaky sound. If it's the proper level of freshness. So I was trying to see if I could capture some of the squeaks. That's all. I had some requests. From the community to capture the squeak. And I tried to do it, and it didn't work out. Just a little experiment. No sandwich today. I ate my sandwich already.
This is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Lucid, hello, thanks for the raid. Lucid, thank you so much. I hope the Lucid Fox stream was good today.
Through all this.
This dude hates women.
What the? It's not true. Oh my gosh. That's just a joke. That's just someone doing a little bit. Everyone knows that that's not correct. Everyone knows that that's not accurate. April Fools, that was yesterday though. This is the problem with this. We were promised a crisp diet beverage. You mean like this? You mean like this Coke Zero Sugar Cherry? Tremendous. Tremendous beverage. April Fool's month. Let's get these millennials are getting crazy with this stuff now. Mais je suis pas le poisson d'avril là. OK? On va mettre ça complètement clair pour la communauté là, je suis pas le poisson d'avril. Sacrément, je suis pas le poisson d'avril en calice. C'est toi, chat, le poisson d'avril. C'est pas moi. Sorry, I had to go there. Sorry, I had to go to that place. I had to go to that place. I didn't want to. I didn't want to have to do that. I didn't want to have to go there, folks. I know it's scary, but sometimes it's necessary. So yeah, no sandwich today. I ate my sandwich already. I always want to talk about this, but I also don't want to dox my neighborhood that I live in. I got an absolutely tremendous chicken cutlet sandwich earlier. I had that before the stream started. I watched the beginning of the new Shogun and enjoyed that. Gonna watch that later. Watch the rest of that. So I ate the sandwich already. I wanted to, I like to enjoy my sandwiches on the stream so people can watch that for whatever reason that they seem to like that. Just was a little bit hungry today. I couldn't wait. I spent the morning, and this is why I look kind of disheveled. I didn't actually take a shower today. I was kind of busy doing stuff. I was walking around. I had to go to this just to buy some various little items. I had to buy those little sticky hangers to hang up like frames. I had to buy some of those. I had to do a small little grocery. I had to mail a letter. Feels like we're really hanging when it's sandwich time. It's fun, Risk and Verse. You can all enjoy your lunches. It's like we're hanging out. It's like we're having lunch together. It's nice. We never spend time together anymore. You know? Chat? We never spend... yeah, we're together. We're together. But we never... we don't have... the quality time. Anyway, so I was out doing some stuff. Low on time. You literally didn't visit me when I was just hours away. I was a mere 6-7 hour drive away, and I didn't take the time. That's how it's fake friends. It's a fake friend situation. That's the only explanation. 4 hours, maybe 5. Okay, I stand corrected. So yesterday was a good stream, a solid 5-6 hour stream. It's been a while. Really, I should probably try to aim to do more of those kind of streams. It's hard to find the time or energy to do it. Oh, Dane, don't ask me. Don't remind me. But it was a good stream yesterday, and too real. And after the stream, I had a nice little meal. I made my mee goreng noodles and added in my leftover chicken and vegetables and added some kimchi and some spring onion. It was a really nice dinner. I watched The Matrix, like I said I was going to do. I didn't watch it on the night of the anniversary, which was also Trans Day of Visibility, which would have been a great day to watch it. But I did watch it yesterday. Still just love every frame of that movie. It's just unbelievable. What an absolute masterpiece that is. So I enjoyed that. I had some more wine. By myself last night and watched The Matrix. It was nice. It was a nice evening, actually. It's still fun to watch. And you know what? I actually really like the sequels. I think neither of the sequels live up to the original because it's just a perfect movie. The sequels, though, there's a lot to like about them. There's a lot to like. Particularly Reloaded. I really like Reloaded. Revolutions is probably my least favorite of the trilogy, but still there's a lot of things to enjoy in there. The whole epic ending stuff. Oh, Lodane Animatrix is amazing. I love the Animatrix stuff. That was incredible. I was thinking, it's strange. I've talked about it before, but it's strange to me that there's been a new Matrix movie out for the last 2 years and I just didn't watch it. I think that's kind of a little weird considering how much I like the franchise. I do think it's a little weird how much it receded from pop culture. Give me a 10 episode Matrix series. on streaming or whatever, Netflix, whoever. Like, that's just print. You can print money. You can print money with a 10-episode Matrix series. Like, there's so much of that universe that you can explore. Give me a Young Morpheus series. We can't have a Young Morpheus series where Morpheus escapes the Matrix, and then is he the one? Is he not the one? You see who brought him out, and you see getting the lore and everything. You get a little older version of the Matrix. Young Morpheus was in the new Matrix. Yeah, but that was like in the future. I'm talking about Lawrence Fishburne's character in the decades when he escapes the Matrix the first time. Young Morpheus with a laugh track. Okay, it doesn't mean to be like young Sheldon, okay? And I just mean anything, though. There's a huge amount of room in that universe. There's decades of, like, unexplored lore. Michael B. Jordan as a young Morpheus is just licensed to print money. Yeah. A Donald Glover, a Michael B. Jordan. Easily. Like, that's just like, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer to me. That's what I mean. There's just so many decades of like lore to explore. You might as well. It's like a really cool universe, a really cool idea. Like something about young Morpheus when it's like in Matrix years, like the Matrix takes place in 1999. In like that's the recreation of like the human world. You could have a 80s Matrix and young Morpheus in like the early 80s, and he wakes up out of the Matrix, and you learn how he meet the crew of people that pulled him out, and he meets the Oracle, and the Oracle says that he's going to find the one, and he's learning about this kind of ideology, and you see him becoming this true believer. You know? Or you can do a whole origin story about the previous one, like the Neo before Neo, pulling the first people out and building Zion and all this stuff. Yeah, Lodan, like that's it. I don't know. It just seems like why don't we have more Matrix stuff? Like we were saying, we have Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian. We have two whole series about like these kinds of characters from Star Wars lore. We've got now like an Older Republic show coming out. We got Andor. We've got so many series. Like what? We can't have a couple Matrix series? A Saved by the Bell Matrix crossover. Morpheus thinks Zach Morris is the one. I feel like you folks are not taking this as seriously as you should be. I'm trying to be serious here. I just mean, give me more Matrix stuff. Great chance for an ensemble cast as scrappy as fuck sci-fi with technology and forced primitive aspect. Yeah, and you have like with the 80s, you have like the cyberpunk like 80s vibe, as well. I'm being serious too, Lodan. Okay, okay, I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lodan, for taking this seriously. Oops, all rave scenes. Okay. Okay. I just mean, give me more Matrix stuff. It's just there's a whole universe of storytelling ready to go. You got to this is what these streaming places love. You got that recognizable IP. In corporate content creation speak. They don't necessarily need to ruin it. Like if Andor is an example of like an interesting creator coming on board and doing something cool with that property. Like there's plenty of cool writers and creators you could bring in to shepherd that. After seeing Godzilla X Kong, I've become so monster pilled that I'm going to watch Monarch. I didn't see that one. I tried to get my Because my son really likes King Kong, and he watched King Kong and Godzilla, and he liked it. But for some reason, I was like, "You want to go to the movie theater to see this new Godzilla versus Kong?" And he was like, "No, not really." I was like, "Really? Okay." So I don't know. We'll see where that. I don't know what's going on with that, but it's really good. Well, maybe I will. Saw the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Give me more Matrix stuff. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, folks. What else? Oh, I got some new bullshit lighting for my apartment. That's fun. I finally got so I've got my room here. Here's my office here. Ahead, I think I've showed you before. TV, window over there, sofa, got some side tables. This is my living room. Oh, sorry, the noise gate's blocking me. Sorry. I'm just trying to describe my living space here that I got in front of me, what I'm seeing. And in the corner of the room here, I have like a vertical, like a lamp thing with two little lamps on it. That's like kind of because I don't use the big light, but that's like my main sort of like lighting element. So what I got like behind me here, I got my like colored lamp there, which I changed to purple. It's been blue for a while. I changed it to purple color. That's down there. But I got two new smart bulbs, and I put the smart bulbs in my like lighting element over in the corner there. So now I can get really crazy with the lighting. Now I can go really nuts. At night, I've got this over here, and then in the other corner I got this like warm kind of gold orange glow. I think I just need to get a few more bullshit lights. I gotta get a few more bullshit lights for this room, and then I'm gonna be in business. I think I actually just got one of those like LED mushroom lights as well. I'm gonna have so much bullshit lighting in this room. It's gonna be so cool. You don't even know. I got the glowy bullshit behind the TV. I've got so much bullshit lighting in this room now. Just one more light, bro, please. I promise, just one more light will fix the stream. It really has nothing to do with the stream. It has more to do with my living space. I just like it. I like the bullshit lighting. I really do. I have my sunset lamp here, but it's hard to know, like, it's good to use for like an accent on the stream, but it's hard to know how to use that to like actually have a lighting element like in this room. I've never really been able to master that. So that's how I spent my evening. I drank some wine. I watched The Matrix. I ate some noodles. I set up my bullshit lights. It was a nice little evening. I really like my apartment. I really do. Even if I do sometimes feel like I'm on like I do live like kind of a hamster ass existence. It's helpful. Like that's honestly one area where being a parent is like helpful because it gets me out of the house and I like go out and walk around. I bring my kid to school. I pick him up. I do stuff with him. I would live such a hamster ass existence if it wasn't for that. Because on days when I don't do that, it's really like something else. Like I just wake up, I stumble over here, I sit in front of my camera, I do a bunch of silly bullshit for 4 or 5 hours to make a little number on the screen go to a bigger number. and then I just like turn it off and I stumble around. It's really like it's like a cage it's like a prison. It's like a prison that I've constructed for myself. Does anyone know that feeling? Does it never look around their like living space? It's like I've constructed a prison of my own design here. But it's nice though. I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. Just need a really sweet wheel. If just instead of like paying for an electricity company, just go on a little wheel for an hour or so a day. If I work from home for like 3 consecutive days, I feel the same. Yeah, it's like, I guess that's what I was saying. It's like, it's good for me that I get out and I go and walk around and I go and bring my kid to school and pick him up and stuff. Because if I was just doing that all the time, I find it would probably be a little weird. A little psychologically a little weird. My prison has a normal amount of monitors too, so that helps. I got so many screens. I'm just inundated with screens. I move over at the end of the day. I move over from my screens here. I go and make dinner or cook looking at my other screen, and then I go and sit down and eat my food looking at another screen. And then when I'm finished my meal, I lean back and watch the one screen, but then have the other screen as well in my hand that I'm also looking at. That's the best. That's the sweet spot. You know what I mean? That's the sweet spot. When you got the one screen with stuff happening there, and then you got the secondary screen and you're ooh, baby. That's the good stuff. Another day of staring at the big screen while scrolling through my little screen so as to reward myself for staring at the medium screen all week. Exactly. You were on the bad screen, and then you move over to the good screen. Need one of those auto feeders full of dumplings and one of those hot water reservoirs filled with rain. I mean, I've talked about this before, but it speaks to how like depressing and alienating our whole like lifestyle is, that it's like that kind of seems appealing, you know? It just being in some kind of human zoo that aliens put you in. Like if this apartment was just transferred into this like other dimension or brought onto a spaceship and just got surrounded by glass, and I had a bunch of aliens just like looking at me all day, and their alien kids running around and looking at me through the glass, and I just had a little thing of water, like Gatorade or something, and then like I think it just a dumpling dispenser. Does that really sound that bad? I don't know. It sounds okay to me. You know? I wouldn't say no outright to that situation. They're going on the other screen. Come look. Exactly. Exactly. I have the Rob show on my small screen as a treat. That sounds nice. It's on sometimes when I'm doing this show, I have like this weird moment, and now is one of those times, honestly, where you realize that you're being perceived, and that like the things that I'm saying right now and the stuff that I do on the show, I'm on people's like little screens in their hand. I'm on the desktop monitor screen at work. I'm on some people's like TVs in their homes. That's always kind of weird for me to learn about. And I start having this existential crisis when I'm thinking about all the different screens that I'm appearing on. Top mid for me. Okay, good. Sign off in the chat. Let me know which screen I'm on right now. Am I on the little screen, the medium screen, or the large screen? So we got audio only gang as well. Let's not forget about audio only gang. Sometimes, if not on cell phone, you're on the TV. That's wild to me. My son said you would make a good Roblox streamer, no cap. I don't know what about me indicates that, but okay, I'll take it. I have been a Fortnite streamer. I've streamed Fortnite before. That's close. That's close to being the same thing. I can't say I've ever really played Roblox, though. My son does like it. I have 4 monitors, so I have your own special monitor all for you. Wonderful. Wonderful. Large screen iMac from 2013, running Linux. I work from home, so on my home PC screen next to my 2 work screens. Small personal laptop screen. Bizarre. Really weird. I like to keep you on the second monitor and offer you a bite to eat, which you always refuse. I like little bites. What are you talking about? I like having little nibbles. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
You're currently in my pocket. Don't make it weird.
Thanks, human person, for the 26 months. I'm in your pocket. Help. 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 I'm stuck in your pocket. You're on my little phone stand next to my stupid work stuff. Amazing. I project TRRS onto the side of a building for everyone in the neighborhood to watch. There we go.
All this.
Screen me up, Scotty.
Critical Mass, thanks for 25 months. Very much appreciated, Critical Mass. Thank you. We have 2 TVs after work. You on TV screen and little screen when I need to talk to chat. That's exciting. I forgot to mention as well because I've got the screen, the living room screen. Because then I do another transition. I do a transition from this screen that I'm on right now. I transfer over to the sofa so I can do bigger screen and small screen. Sometimes I come back here for gaming stuff. Okay? Sometimes I come back here to play Helldivers or something like that. But usually what I do, like I did last night, I'm on the sofa with the bigger screen, and then I transfer to the bedroom where there's also a screen. And it's slightly smaller. But then I've got bed, screen, and also still a small screen as well. Whenever things get hot at Malevelon Creek. It's crazy that I don't know if it was an April Fool's thing or whatever, but I checked yesterday and it was liberated. Malevelon Creek was liberated after being at like 0.8% for the last 3 months. I basically just always have to have stuff happening that we're playing. I really do. I don't know if that's good. I need to have the screens. Something needs to be happening on those, you know? Something needs to be going on. Like I was saying, even at night, often I have the screen playing like sleep sounds or like these like space scenes and white noise and stuff. Starship engines. I gotta have something, some kind of noise or some kind of stimulation going on. How do you handle complete silence? Honestly, not well. And also, I like another thing is that I have like pretty bad tinnitus, so that's actually also a part of it. Because often when there is just like silence, all I hear is "ee," and I notice that that's happening all the time. I don't really notice as much if there's like music playing or sound playing. But as soon as it's total silence, it's just like "ee," which is maybe Havana syndrome, as we were talking about yesterday. Maybe I've been blasted with some kind of directed energy acoustic weapon. We don't know. But mostly during the silence is when the bad thoughts happen too. So that's another key thing for me. We want to avoid that. We want to avoid those. When we get the pure silence, I was like, whoa, what's going on up here? Let's get something else happening. This is no good. We don't want this. I didn't sign up for this. I'm sorry, man. How do you like the Disturbed cover of Sound of Silence? Oh, okay. I actually don't hate it. What if we combine a sensory deprivation tank and a cold plunge? Let's create the most unpleasant experience possible or imaginable. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that. Ugh. So I don't know. That's all. That's all the personal updates for me. Bullshit lighting. I got to do some cleaning. I got so many fucking dishes. God, do I ever hate doing the dishes? I told myself that I was going to do some of that last night, and then I said I was going to do it this morning. Then I said I was going to do it later. It's just they really don't ever end. Like, it's just when does it stop? When does it stop? There's just never getting around it. There's never getting away from it. And I got way too much like paper clutter. I think this is part of like having kids, and sometimes that becomes really difficult to keep things tidy with them. But it's like I got to really do something. I got all my surfaces, like all my tables, just all have like papers and drawings and like books and stuff on them. And it's like I don't know what to do with any of it, and I just get overwhelmed, and then I just don't do anything. Which is frustrating, and that's something that I got to do. I got to like go through and do a full like tidying situation. Are you feeling that, Barbara? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I get it.
This is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based
Look
in
at these
Canada.
raids.
I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Look at all these raids. Welcome, Left Flank Vets Raiders. Thank you for joining the stream. I appreciate it. I appreciate the raid. I hope the Left Flank Vets stream was good today. It's me, Rob. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you. Thank you for being here. Please smash the follow button, or just click it regularly. Just click it at a regular like level of force. You can click it gently. You can smash it. Whatever you do, just hit the old follow button if you're not already. Rob, I've got Havana syndrome. Yeah, I think you're Havana laugh right now with that, Marcus. If you ask me. that Havana syndrome piece, yeah, from 60 Minutes was one of the most insane things that I've seen. It's crazy what passes for like journalism in the United States today. Havana laugh on a Tuesday, no less, innit? That's right. No, it's just totally crazy. The car chase scene and like just everything about it was just so bizarre. I have Havana syndrome. Havana hard time finding a way to pay all these bills. Which is why I need to get access to a medical payout from the US government. It's not funny. That lady got a plate in her head. This, as I described yesterday, this is the brilliant plan of Putin, of the Russians. We will target these low-level diplomats and their spouses while they're doing laundry. They will not be able to do their laundry. This is our evil genius plan. These low-level Justice Department and State Department officials and their families. We will give them mild headaches using our directed energy weapon. these low-level officials, State Department officials. Like, just, this is what I mean, though. Just like for any conspiracy, just back up and really think about the like logistics of what you're describing. Like, this is what the people that are telling this story, this is what they're saying that Russia's doing. This is their brilliant plan, is to give headaches to low-level State Department and Justice Department dipshits and or their wives. Why? Well, we don't know. What does it change? What is it doing? What, like, who benefits? K Bono. I heard they were the top performers at the FBI. Well, that's the amazing thing, too. It's like, I work in counterintelligence at the FBI. Well, this person would never lie. This person would never just make something up to further America's security interests. We will give headaches to low-level diplomats. We are so afraid of Kamala Harris. She's coming to Vietnam. We must disrupt the Kamala Harris Vietnam visit by giving a headache to a low-level embassy official. Why? But why, though? But why? That's the question. I do misinformation professionally, but enough about that. Back to this directed energy weapon I've been targeted with. That's a very real thing. Oh, no, thanks for the reminder, actually, Old Dutch. I should do that. Old Dutch designed such a fucking cool shirt. And I'll try and, if you shouldn't have to do this, Old Dutch, but if you ping me later, I'll upload it later, for sure tomorrow. Because I actually want to get one of those shirts because it's absolutely sick. These low-level diplomats and their families will never be safe. It does kind of sound like Rick Moranis in Spaceballs. Did you see anything? No, sir. I didn't see you playing with your dolls again, sir. Now you see that evil will always triumph because good is dumb. That's what Putin's saying. Really incredible stuff going on in the old United States of America and Canada as well. Like, in fact, let's talk about this because Canada was like, "Well, we're getting Havana syndrome too." Of course, Canada's got to get involved as well. Canada can't leave all this to the U.S. They can't leave all the fun to the U.S. We got CBC running a piece on this as well. This is the latest bullshit light that I got. This is my new bullshit lighting thing I got. This thing. This is like LED mushroom lamp. Oh, it's stupid. This is 5 years ago. A diplomat sue Ottawa over health ailments during Cuba postings. This is the national. This is just a quick hit, though.
A new twist in a years-long mystery believed to have started in Havana. What is behind an unexplained illness affecting U.S. diplomats?
It was like a dentist drilling on steroids. That feeling when it gets too close to your eardrum, it's like that, times 10.
Now, an international joint investigation that aired on 60 Minutes alleges they may have been targeted by a secretive Russian intelligence unit.
It's next generation weaponry, and unfortunately, it's been refined on some of us, and we're the test subjects.
The first case of so-called Havana syndrome was believed to have happened in that city in 2016, although this new report suggests there were instances in Germany 2 years earlier. The injured describe experiencing dizziness, headaches, and vision problems, and they include White House staff, CIA officers, FBI agents, military officers,
White House staff,
and
but
their
not like,
families.
the president.
Consistently, there was a Russia nexus. There was some angle where they had worked against Russia, focused on Russia, and done extremely well.
More than a dozen Canadian diplomats and their family members have
See, we're
also
involved
reported
too.
experiencing similar symptoms after placements in Cuba, and some are now suing the federal government.
These diplomats are serving Canada in some of the most dangerous places in the world. And if we're not going to step up and protect them substantially, I don't know who would go into the diplomatic corps.
Protect them how?
Last year, U.S. intelligence officials said it's very unlikely a foreign adversary is responsible. The White House maintains that it supports that finding.
We trust our intelligence community, right?
The Kremlin
This is
has dismissed the report, calling the allegation nothing but unfounded accusations. Idil Musa, CBC News.
I can't believe they would dare say such a thing. But that's always the weird thing that we were discussing yesterday as well when we talk about this. Because you have the intelligence community denying that this is a thing at all, and denying the idea that there's some kind of foreign adversary doing this kind of thing. At the same time, you see the kind of fingerprints of the security state in making these accusations in the first place. So it sounds like there's some kind of weird op going on. There's different factions at war with one another. Something strange is going on. It's a truly bizarre story, but it's very funny to laugh at. We trust our intelligence community, right? But then you have like counterintelligence people from the FBI going on TV and being like, they got me with the microwave weapon, So it really does seem like there's different elements going on here. There's different factions speaking about this. Oh shit, look, GGG is first. Crazy timing. Just sneaks in with that first at the last second. Yeah, just this whole story is just so stupid and bizarre to laugh at. I thought maybe there'd be more of a Canadian angle to it. I'm not sure if there is, though. Here's the BBC, because now it's news again.
Now let's take a look at another
now it's news
story
again.
Today. The Kremlin has dismissed a media report that links a Russian intelligence unit to so-called Havana syndrome. That's a mystery illness which has affected U.S. diplomats. An investigation by The Insider, Der Spiegel and CBS alleges that the Americans were targeted with directed energy weapons. One victim of the syndrome, an FBI agent, told 60 Minutes about her experience of being hit by a powerful force while at her home in Florida in 2021.
And bam, inside my right ear, it was like a dentist drilling on steroids. That feeling when it gets too close to your eardrum, it's like that, times 10.
I like the cutaway to the journalist doing a serious journalist face while hearing this insane bullshit. I think that's funny.
It's like that, times 10. It was like a high-pitched metallic drilling noise, and it knocked me forward at like a 45-degree angle this way.
Well, the syndrome was first identified in Cuba's capital city in 2016 when U.S. diplomats complained of dizziness,
yeah, you have
headaches,
tinnitus.
and a painful
I don't know. Use your
sound
protection
in
when
their
you
ears.
listen to loud music.
U.S. officials have previously said it's unlikely a foreign power is to blame. The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, says the new accusations are unfounded.
It is absolutely not a new issue. For many years, an issue of so-called Havana syndrome has been played up in mass media. Often it was connected with accusations of Russian involvement, but no one has ever published or expressed any convincing evidence of these unfounded accusations anywhere.
Well, let's speak now to news reporter Steve Dorsey, who broke the story of the syndrome affecting US personnel in Cuba in 2016 for CBS and has covered developments since. Steve, good to have you with us.
He broke the story in 2016. This man's spent 8 years of his life talking about this
first reported,
stupid
but this has
nonsense.
cropped up in various other locations as well, hasn't it?
Absolutely. We've been hearing over the years of cases spreading throughout China, originating first in Guangzhou. We've been reporting on at least one case in Uzbekistan. Now we're hearing from 60 Minutes and other reporters that there have been cases in Ukraine, in Germany, and now the Pentagon and the White House confirming that last year at a NATO summit, a senior DOD official, a Pentagon official, had similar symptoms as this purported Havana syndrome, which the federal government here in the U.S. is now calling anomalous health incidents. That's a evolution of what were first described as health attacks by the U.S. State Department. So far, though, not much more information publicly revealed by the Biden administration.
So we've heard about some of the symptoms, earaches, headaches, nosebleeds, and this has been all attributed to some kind of so-called directed energy attack. What could be causing this?
Well, listen, there's been a lot of research over the years, studies done by universities, by the National Institutes.
I don't know why I find this funny, but just like
done by
describing someone's job as news reporter, I find that funny for some reason. Like, it seems like if you were just like making up a guy, if you were like doing a facsimile of like a news program. Steve Dorsey, news reporter. It just seems like I don't know. It seems like a professional lie reader, professional security state stenographer. Exactly. Yeah, what kind of reporter? Oh, just the news. Okay. Thank you. The simulation getting lazy. Yeah. More like Steve Dork ass. Oh, my.
Universities, by the National Institutes of Health, by academic journals, theorizing what could be behind these strange constellations of injuries and symptoms, everything from what we're hearing is a directed energy device, which 60 Minutes has described as something that could be like a secret sonic weapon that is perhaps developed by a secret military intelligence unit of Russia. Or it could be microwave signals aimed at U.S.
Just pure speculation.
Personnel, but also
it could be. It possibly could be a Russian directed energy weapon. Like, we don't know. Like, it could be a lot of things, right? Like we can start making stuff up too. It could be a lot of things. It could be aliens. We don't know that it's not. There's as much evidence that it's aliens as there is that it's the Russians or that it exists at all. Maybe it is. Let's start speculating on that. Let's go on TV and speculate on that.
Cover intelligence officers in Cuba and elsewhere around the world, other officers working for different parts of the government, including the FBI. Or listen, we've heard much other skepticism of this, including from Cuba itself, saying that it had no involvement in this. It could have been loud crickets at the time, or it could have been in the imagination of all these folks that claim they have things as severe as mild traumatic brain injury, which was, according to some victims, noted in scans of their brains.
And finally, Steve, what do you make of the contention on the one hand that this could be attributed to Russia? Russia, as we've heard, denies this. On the other hand, we have had the US government previously saying that it doesn't believe a foreign power is behind these attacks.
And that's something that some of the victims have been complaining about, that the U.S. isn't taking this seriously enough. There's been doubts about whether an adversary
Cuba's denying
is involved,
these people's
whether there
lived
is any kind of
experiences.
weapon involved, whether their injuries are actually real. But we do know that there is reporting and intelligence that suggests a foreign adversary could be involved in this. It could be Russia. It could be another adversary. But there are conclusions that it's likely not Cuba necessarily involved to a full extent, that they simply don't have the resources or the technology capable of launching these supposed.
Nor does anyone. And first of all, Cuba, despite having limited resources and technology, has a incredible, like world-class health industry, in the research and development and health technology and things that like medical, the kind of medical breakthroughs that have been made there with like discovering with cancer screening, with COVID vaccines, you know, they're doing that despite these limited resources. Why can't they develop a microwave energy weapon? A directed energy, non-lethal sonic microwave weapon. Why couldn't Cubans have done that?
Rob to talk you through all this.
Yo,
Squatch Drew, thanks for 36 months. Resub at tier 2. Thank you for all the support over 36 entire months, Squatch Drew. And you know what that means? 36 months, that's 3 years. So congratulations to you, Squatch Drew, for the beautiful Pearl 3-year sub badge. Where has the time gone? It's like the idea that I've been on here this long is quite crazy to me, honestly. It is quite wild to me. And remember, if you're watching the stream and you're a non-subbed member and you see all these cool sub badges and you think, wow, I could never have a 36-month Pearl sub badge. That's so many months. But, you know, you got to take the first step. If you want to get the 3-year badge or the 2-year badge or even the 1 year, you got to take that first step. You got to put one foot in front of the other. And one sub, before you know it, just like Squatch Drew is saying, before you know it, you will have your beautiful, beautiful Radiant Pearl 3-year sub badge, just like our friend Squatch Drew and some of the other fine folks in this chat and community. And again, if you want to support this show and you want to help keep it on the air, even if you have a badge already, if you want to just help keep this show on the air, if you can, please subscribe and support the work that I do on here. As you know, I must make the little number at the bottom of the screen go up every single day. That's the only way that I'm able to do this show each and every day. I don't get funding from the arms manufacturing industry. I'm not getting any big Havana Syndrome related payouts from the US government or the Canadian government, unfortunately. I'm fully reliant to do this show, fully reliant on the generosity of the community members and the viewers and chatters and listeners like you. So if you can, please do subscribe. And I see E. Bridget continuing the gift sub they got from Comrade Social Distancing. I don't know why that doesn't increase that for some reason doesn't count towards the sub goal. I'm going to go ahead and manually update that. Thank you, E. Bridget, for that.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you to Sunny Sola as well. I appreciate all the support, Sunny Sola. Thanks for the gifted sub. You didn't con 60 minutes into creating an AD for your new company to grift off private government contracts. That was a truly amazing part of the whole thing yesterday, of the guy being like, I've left the public sector and I've started this firm to investigate this further. It's like, yeah, okay, I see kind of what's going on here. I see what's going on here. I want to show because there's a scene in that film Leave the World Behind that Obama produced for Netflix. There's like a Havana Syndrome scene in that movie, which is really funny. I don't know if I can find the actual scene in it, though. It's really dumb. I don't know if I can find the actual scene. What a stupid movie that was, though. God, it's really bad. It was really not good.
One of the key mysteries in the
There it
recently
is.
released Netflix apocalyptic movie Leave the World Behind is the source of the enigmatic loud noise. The United States is subjected to an unprecedented coordinated cyber attack that aims to destabilize the entire country at once, and the film brilliantly crafts
This whole movie is just basically like a list of all the the fear mongering,
the world behind, where the source of the loud piercing noise,
the fear mongering intelligence agency speculatory things, the cyber attack, the sonic weapons.
The noise appears to have the ability to cause mental and physical harm to people who hear it, making it seem like it is part of the coordinated attacks on the United States. The loud noise occurs in conjunction with the internet blackout, disabled satellites, and the widespread hacking of automated transportation vessels.
It's really dumb.
Ranging from oil tankers.
But I think that's the narrative, though. They think it's like, oh, they're refining this weapon, they're testing it out. They're testing it out on these embassy workers, and then they're gonna get everybody with it. I think that's kind of the claim that they're making.
Help with Clay's son Archie. Danny was the
Yeah, Kawaii Mami, I mean, as we've been talking about, these kind of non-lethal sonic weapons already exist.
Doorstep, asking for his assistance. It's
They already
how
exist.
much Danny knows about the whole ordeal, but he does
Like
have
we've got
several
cops,
intriguing theories that
militarized
offer a glimpse
cops
as to what is happening
in the
with
United
Archie,
States and
whose
Canada
teeth
that
are
have this
basically
kind of
falling out of his mouth.
non-lethal
Archie also
sonic
omitted a
weaponry.
mysterious black mass earlier in the film. Danny raises the notion that directed microwave radiation is the source of the loud noise in Leave the World Behind. This would identify Archie's bizarre and horrifying symptoms as a consequence.
Okay. It's a dumb movie for adult babies. But yeah, I think that's kind of the what they're kind of suggesting. You know, it's not that they're going after these low-level diplomats. They're testing out this weapon. She was even saying so herself, that counterintelligence FBI lady. They're testing out this weapon, and then eventually, when the attack comes, the cyber attack that coincided with this sonic weapon. It's just all the new phase of warfare, Fantasyland lib brain things that they've conjured up. And then this movie is kind of showing what's going to happen. What's going to happen? All this comes together. This plot. We've become a spook country. It's true. Yeah. Like I was saying yesterday, it's like all the stuff with the spy balloon, with this thing. Like I was saying, it's worth reiterating though. It's just like this is not a confident nation, secure in its place atop the global hegemony, secure in the security and stability of its empire. These are the actions of a desperate, paranoid, flailing, declining power. just scared at shadows and losing their minds over these kind of like fantasies, these delusional fantasies about being attacked. You know? A lot of it is just like this fear as well that like the things that we have done to nations around the world, like attack them with disinformation campaigns, destabilize their election processes, install puppet leaders, take over their, like pay for media propaganda, black propaganda. This is all stuff that America does around the world and has for many, many years. And a lot of this is just like this paranoia that the things that America has done to other nations repeatedly for decades and decades is going to start happening to us, you know? That's what a lot of it is. When really, like, we're seeing like what the real fascism is when that imperialism comes home. And that's the reality. When America is attacked and when its freedoms are taken away, it's not going to be some foreign adversary blasting America with microwave directed energy sonic weapons. It's going to be militarized cops, you know, assaulting people that are gathering together to collectively organize or to collectively like demand better treatment as things continue to deteriorate, as people's material conditions continue to deteriorate, as the climate continues to deteriorate. And you're going to have militarized cops with their own sonic weapons that they already have, and using drones and all other kind of technology and their own disinformation and their own censorship and control over the internet. And it's going to be used by the United States government on its own citizens. It's not that like there's this threat of Iran or North Korea or Russia or China or Cuba or Venezuela or whoever else attacking America and using an EMP or using this kind of like a cyber attack or this kind of sonic weapon. Like that's not the threat to Americans. The threat to Americans is militarized cops acting as the hired thugs and the muscle and the armed wing of the capitalist class, ensuring that no one demands, you know, better treatment as things continue to get worse. That's the threat to American democracy and American freedom. And they're really just like engaged in this process of making people so fucking angry and paranoid about the possibility that they're going to be attacked that they won't even notice when it's the United States government implementing all these kind of policies. And even these right-wing don't tread on me guys who claim to be against the United States government and they're the first people that support the militarization of the police, as we've talked about before. Even these people that are skeptical about the United States government, they're skeptical of the U.S. government, but they think the police need to get unlimited funding and total monopoly on the ability to wage war and commit violence. Yeah, it'll be machine gun toting assassination drones or robot attack dogs. Yeah, and like those are all going to be deployed on the border to protect America from this dangerous threat. I'm 62 years old, live in Clearwater, Florida, play golf every day, and Iran is the biggest threat to my way of life. It's very silly. They're already being tested on the border. Yeah, and a lot of this technology is tested in Gaza as well. Like you're seeing in Gaza, there's been horror stories of these like armed drones at like circling these hospitals and shooting at people and assassinating people. Flying armed robots. That's being tested on the people in Gaza, and eventually we're going to be seeing it here. We're going to see it on the southern border, and then eventually it's just going to be in the cities, you know? It's going to be like every marginalized group from Gaza onward to the southern U.S. border to domestically, and then it's just going to be just a normal part of like the way that the state maintains security and order. Excuse me. I'm gonna try and find some stuff to put on. I did want to talk about this Israeli attack. On these aid workers. World Central Kitchen employees. So we can talk a bit about that. I'd like to put on some videos. I talked a lot yesterday, so I don't want to I talked for a good 5 hours yesterday, so I would like to maybe take it a little more easy today. A little bit more chill. That's okay with you. Talked for a great 5 hours. Well, thank you, Up the Reds, for that. Let me find a video on this attack. I think it's it's important to focus on this. I think sometimes when we're talking about Israel and their violence and their criminality, and we focus on these aid workers, and we kind of if those aid workers in this case for the World Central Kitchen employees, if they were just Palestinians, no one would care. But so it's we fixate on these kind of foreign workers, including Canadian citizens, and it causes this outrage because just when Israel just murders Palestinians, it doesn't really lead to much of an outrage. It doesn't really lead to much of an outcry. But so I feel a little bit weird fixating on these workers. I do think it's worth pointing out, though, as well. It's you can't look at this and not just come. I find it really impossible to not come to the conclusion that Israel is just trying to warn any international aid group not to fuck around in Gaza and try to feed people. And this organization, people have pointed out, this organization is not a pro-Palestine organization. There's people trying to do good work, but similar to UNRWA, which is not the top distributor of aid in Gaza, this organization, they feed everyone. They've come out and said that we support Israel. We stand with Israel. And after October 7th, they're we stand with Israel. And they've taken every step to ensure that they can't be framed as being pro-Palestine or pro-Hamas or anybody. And Israel still murders them intentionally and knows that they won't get away with it. These are even when they try to use the language to appease Israel and take every step to ensure that their workers are going to be okay, communicating with the IDF and making sure they know where they are and who they are. Even when they do that, Israel just deliberately murders them. And we're seeing this international outcry, and we're going to see the same cycle that we always see. We're going to demand an investigation. Israel's going to say, I'll spoil it for everyone. If you're wondering what this investigation is going to do, Israel's just going to say, oh yeah, there are some Hamas guys there. So, sorry. And then every one of our Western leaders that are how dare they do this are going to be well, that's good enough for me. So it's hard not to view this as anything but a warning sign to any humanitarian aid organization. Don't try and feed people. Don't try and feed people in Gaza. Matt Miller will snark about how Hamas used the poor chefs as shields. It sounds like you're saying that Israel should just ignore the Hamas fighters in the area. That's exactly what he said about the scenes of total barbarism and criminality at Shifa Hospital. Oh, so you're saying that Israel should just do nothing about the Hamas fighters there? It's yeah, asshole. Yes, we are saying that, actually. You smarmy fucking genocidal fuck. But yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. And it really does seem like they're just sending a message to anyone. Do not try to feed people in Gaza. Why don't these websites have better UI?
With targets you and kills you. You know what's worse than this? The NGO, the non-profit organization that you work for, describes and sums up your death as a tragedy. Not a slaughter, not a murder, not a war crime. No, just a tragedy. And I'm only here to mourn the individuals who fell as victims to the genocidal intent of the State of Israel. But when it comes to the World Central Kitchen, they are as complicit to what's happening to the people of Gaza more than you think. Jose Andre, the founder of World Central Kitchen, has been trying with the State Department of the United States to replace UNRWA on the ground. And not just that, back in October, 7 days after Israel declared that they're gonna cut water, electricity and food to the people of Gaza, Jose Andre, in a response to a tweet by the Spanish Minister of Social Rights, said that you can only ask for restraints and respect to the lives of the civilians in Gaza if only she condemns the H group. And he went as far to claim that she is a supporter of H group. Only 6 months after that tweet, and 5 of his humanitarian aid workers getting killed, including one Palestinian driver who was driving the car, only then he declared that the humanitarian crisis in Gaza should be addressed. World Central Kitchen and this man try so hard to claim that they are apolitical, although they are coordinating with the IOF. But you can easily tell that this guy is a hypocrite, because when Russia made some Ukrainians hungry, he claimed that they are using starvation as a weapon of war. When it came to Israel using starvation as a weapon of war and a tool of genocide, he just said, Israel should let some more aid in. I no longer trust any foreign non-profit organization. If you want to help the people of Gaza, you should support the grassroots organizations that are helping the people and are aware of their needs and their lines. We lost 5 humans today: a Palestinian driver, a Polish citizen, a British, Australian and Irish citizen. But if you think and have any hopes that Australia, Britain or Poland will say anything to condemn what Israel did to their citizen, you will be completely deluded.
Or Canada. I think one of these people had Canadian citizenship as well. And here's Melanie Joly. And look at this. You're wrong, sir. We will condemn. Look at this. Look at this forceful statement. I'm horrified to hear reports of the IDF strike taking the lives of 7 World Central Kitchen employees in Gaza yesterday, including a Canadian citizen. We condemn these strikes and call for full accountability for these killings, and we will convey this to the Israeli government directly. Strikes on humanitarian personnel is absolutely unacceptable. International humanitarian law must be respected. And this is the way that Western leaders do kind of whitewash these crimes. Is that we expect a full investigation. We demand that Israel investigate. So yeah, they're going to investigate. Israel will investigate themselves. And here's what they're going to say. Like I said before, they'll investigate themselves and they're going to say Hamas. That's their investigation. We've done an investigation. Here we have a thorough investigation into this issue. We take these accusations very seriously. We've done a full investigation and we're here to present our findings. Hamas. And that's the end. And then what's going to happen? You know what? Nothing. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. And of course, there's all these people in the comments saying how dare you even say this? But that's the Western condemnation of these kinds of attacks on aid workers, which, as we've talked about, is an intentional attack. They said it was an accident, it was a big mistake. They were coordinating with this World Central Kitchen organization, coordinating it intensively with the IDF, knew full well where their people were, what vehicles they were driving. And they triple tapped these people. This is not one missile strike. This was multiple. This was multiple missile strikes as these people were desperately trying to escape. Like, it's just hard not to see this as anything but a intentional warning. It doesn't matter how much you try to say the words and you support Israel and you support, our right to defend ourselves, and you denounce Hamas and you denounce all the baddies and you denounce the idea of Palestinian armed resistance. There's no amount of words or phrases you can use. If you go and try and feed people in Gaza, we're going to kill you. How it's impossible to take away anything other than that. And look at this psychotic genocidaire British guy who's become like a mouthpiece for the Israeli government.
So I've made clear that the Prime Minister has spoken to other governments.
This is a former member of the Labour Party Friends of Israel group, who is now just a paid spokesman for this genocidal regime.
So I've made clear that the Prime Minister has spoken to other governments that have been affected by this tragic case. This is an absolutely horrifying idea. As I mentioned in my briefing, that aid workers, genuine aid workers, are really the unsung heroes in conflicts around the world. They make sure that aid goes to the people that need it most. And in our case, try to stop Hamas from stealing that aid. War is a terrible thing. This was not a war that we started or a war that we wanted. But
yes,
nonetheless,
it is.
This is a
It's weird how these mistakes can happen, right? It's whenever Israel kills all these civilians, it's just a mistake. It's just this tragic mistake. But weirdly, that doesn't apply on the other side as well. When we do it, it's by accident. If you accidentally kill 30,000 civilians, I feel like that's no longer an excuse. You're just bad at doing a war at that point, if that's really your legitimate reason for how this has happened. Shit is popping off in Alberta right now with these carbon tax protests. There's a multi-vehicle collision near Crown's Nest Pass and a bunch of farm tractors that caused it refused to stop for police. Cool. It's amazing that the carbon tax is going to be the thing that brings this country to its knees.
tragic case, but we will get to the bottom of what's happened. Thank you. The next question, please.
One more related question from Riley Stewart of Australia Broadcasting Corporation. And
Is there even evidence that Hamas is stealing aid? No, of course not. It's just all entirely claims from the Israeli government, which are just supposed to be taken at face value by everybody. That's all. Just like there's no... And if there's evidence, it's because they tortured some poor motherfucker and extracted some kind of confession from some person, and then they use that as just being a factual thing, and then our entire media apparatus and our entire political apparatus just runs with it, like we saw with the UNRWA stuff.
The IDF has said that it is working with the World Central Kitchen to help complete its duties in Gaza. What hope do other organizations have for their safety in Gaza, given that the IDF has confirmed it fatally bombed WCK convoy?
Thank you very much for your question, Riley. So we are carrying out an inquiry into what has happened here. We've said that this is a tragic case. I mentioned to you as well already that these are unsung heroes of wars around the world, and especially here in our battle with Hamas to try and get aid to the people that need it most in Gaza. We will work extremely hard. In fact, we are positively trying to get as much aid into Gaza as possible. The figures are now more than 200 trucks going in every day. I remind you that food trucks, before this war, there were 70 food trucks a day going in. The last count was more than 200. So we're working extremely hard to get as much aid as we can and get it to the people that need it the most.
And it's Israel, as we've talked about, it's fucking Israeli citizens ensuring that the aid doesn't get it. Like eventually they're just gonna have to like admit that they're lying on this, or someone's gonna have to call them out for just not being for fucking lying. Like they can just literally say anything. That's been this amazing thing about the whole last couple of months. We still just have to take every claim seriously, no matter how much they lie, no matter how much they just completely fabricate these kind of claims. They're just hoping to run out the clock. But I mean, they've presented plans for an operation in Rafah, which includes a 6-month timeline. So like they're proposing going into Rafah for a whole 6-month campaign. With even the US saying like, no, we don't want you doing that. We don't want you doing that. They're still kind of planning on doing that. And they've forced millions of people into this small area, and now they want to go in and spend the next 6 months going and massacring everyone that's there now. Like I keep saying, we're getting to a point where someone's going to need to step in to stop this. Like, as dangerous as that is, we can either just sit back and just allow this to continue, or someone's going to have to step in. The UN is trying to do what it can. The Security Council's passing resolutions. They're being ignored. The ICJ is making these kinds of like statements and proposing these and passing these resolutions, and they're being ignored. So it's like, what is left? You know, they're ignoring all these constraints that are being put in place. How is this going to stop? And like I was talking about yesterday, they're bombing Iranian officials. They're bombing Lebanon. You've got ISIS attacking Iran, just like as total coincidence. Just a total coincidence. You know, they're bombing They're bombing Syria. They're bombing Lebanon. They're assassinating Iranian officials. They're just daring. They're daring the world to like. They're daring someone to actually step in. Like, how do you look at any of this and not come to the conclusion that they're trying to escalate this? That they're trying to escalate this. They're trying to draw in Iran further. They're trying to draw in Hezbollah further, and they're trying to draw in the United States further. And there's a whole contingent of psychotic evangelicals in the United States are just drooling and waiting for it to happen. There's psychos and neocons in the U.S. government that have been fucking had a hard on for bombing Iran for decades now. And they haven't like had the right the capacity to actually pull that off, but like they might be getting to that point. I don't know if war with Hezbollah would draw in the U.S. No, but if like Iran, for example, got more actively implicated, or Russia, you know, or China. Yeah, and they just authorized like 20 billion in sales and new F-15s, while saying like, don't go into Rafah, but here's billions of dollars more worth of weapons. It's really cynical. The U.S. would get drawn in with an expansion into Jordan or Egypt if Iran finally has had enough. Yeah, or if some of the unrest we're starting to see in Jordan or Egypt starts to genuinely affect the ruling classes and ruling parties there. Like there's people protesting now in Egypt and Jordan who are disgusted by their government's complicity in this, even when they try to kind of play both sides like Jordan has done. Like there's a genuine sentiment among people in some of these like these regional states that want very much for their government to actually stop subsidizing this and stop supporting it. If that could turn into a legitimate democratic movement that threatened the actual power structures in these places, then that's another big red line for America as well. I mean, they're just truly out of control. They're truly out of control, and that's the main question that I have right now, is just how is this going to stop? Because it doesn't really look like their diplomacy is not working. These international institutions are not working.
You can count on me.
They're doing what they need to do, but they're being ignored. So, like, what is left on the table now? Diego, thank you for the gifted sub. Thank you, Diego. And Amir, not only am I a mere 28 subs away from the goal today, I'm a mere 281 subs away from my overall sub goal. That's exciting. That's fun. Let's see here. Look, and here's Anthony Blinken. Here's more Western outrage. It's this. I mean, we've seen this before. We've seen this time and time again. We saw it with the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh, and that had the same thing. The United States government was very concerned, and we demanded an investigation. You know, demanded an investigation. And where did that go? What did the investigation conclude? And it's always the same too. We demand that Israel investigate this. We demand that they investigate this. Well, they're going to investigate it, and they're going to conclude that they did nothing wrong and that it was Hamas's fault. Like, we don't need to go through this whole song and dance.
Antony Blinken is calling on the Israeli government to carry out an investigation into the killing of the aid workers.
Have a situation where people who are simply trying to help their fellow human beings are themselves at grave risk. We've spoken directly to the Israeli government about this particular incident. We've urged a swift, a thorough, and impartial investigation to understand exactly what happened.
Heidi Jo Castro joins us now from outside World Central Kitchen headquarters in Washington, D.C. What are you learning over there?
I'll get to that in just one sec. Just wanted to show Baldwin sending this picture here. Yeah, there's a giant hole in their aid truck. Right through the logo. And they triple tapped. People that survived from the people that survived the initial attack left the trucks, and then they were drone striked multiple other times. Yeah, it's like they used the logo as a target, basically. Oh, it was a big mistake. Like I said, it's impossible not to just come to the conclusion that they're just murdering people that are trying to help anybody.
There, Heidi.
Cyril, the CEO of World Central Kitchen, has issued a statement calling this a targeted attack. And I'll read to you from her statement saying, this is not only an attack against World Central Kitchen, this is an attack on humanitarian organizations showing up in the most dire of situations where food is being used as a weapon of war. This is unforgivable. The words from the CEO of the World Central Kitchen, which is a relatively new aid organization in Gaza, but it really made headlines and by making some bold moves, most notably constructing that jetty off of the coast and being the first organization to successfully deliver food aid from that maritime corridor. Some 200 metric tons of food were delivered in March, and it was in the midst of distributing this food that, according to the World Central Kitchen, that these 7 workers were killed in that Israeli military strike. They had just left a warehouse where they were moving.
No, it's
some
true,
of
Sam.
this,
Like it's like
food, and we're
I
also
retweeted
wanting-
something to this effect today, but it's just like we've never seen anything like this. They're with full Western backing. They're just completely out of control. They're just completely out of control. They're acting with total impunity, full support from the West, even when we take this like hand-wringing approach. Doesn't materially change anything about our support for Israel. Completely just criminal, just rogue criminal state. Just destroying every single norm, just flagrantly violating every single semblance of international law, ignoring all these institutions, whether it's the UN or whether it's the ICJ or whatever else, just flagrantly and like ignoring all of it. Completely out of control. And just like I said, just daring someone to stop them, which as of yet is not happening. Israel is basically operating like the insane machine gunner in Full Metal Jacket. Anyone that runs is VC. Anyone that doesn't run is a well-trained VC. Anyone that runs is Hamas. Anyone who doesn't run is well-trained Hamas. Yeah, it is the exact same ethos. Absolutely. Like we drew the comparison between the Vietnamese resistance and with resistance groups like Hamas. And you can look through American media from the 60s and early 70s, and there's all kinds of stuff about the horrors of the atrocities that the Viet Cong committed. There's all kinds of stories about that. You know? That's why it's important people say don't single out Israel, and we don't have to single out Israel because we see this is just an extension of Western foreign policy. It's an extension of Western imperialism. Just right now, they're the most flagrant example of it. And I think just like the complete lack of concern for any of these like international rules, or just not even attempting to cover it up, or not even attempting to pretend that something else is going on, I think is the thing that does set it apart. You know?
More about their identities. One of them was a dual U.S. Canadian citizen, several British citizens, as well as an Australian citizen, and of course a Palestinian as well. And they said that they were working in a deconflicted zone and moving in coordination with the Israeli military when, despite all that, this attack occurred.
Heidi, I'm curious because we just heard from the Israeli Prime Minister.
If the world turns against Israel, they'll 100% use nuclear arsenal. And like I said, there's a bunch of like evangelical Christian psychos in the United States and elsewhere that are longing for that to happen.
Directly with World Central Kitchen about this?
You know, the World Central Kitchen says it's awaiting an investigation. It is unclear how closely they're in touch with the Israeli military about this investigation, but they said that they were doing this in coordination, that every movement of this caravan had been done in coordination.
There's no, there's no level of support. You can't support Israel, support the IDF, coordinate with them. If you're trying to distribute aid in Gaza, you're going to be a target.
Organization. And notably, this is not by far the first humanitarian aid workers that have been killed in Gaza since this conflict began. There have been actually close to 200 of them. And now the World Central Health Kitchen is saying that they are immediately suspending their operations.
That's exactly right, Joe. Yes.
Another ship that is just floating off the coast of Gaza carrying 400 metric tons of food aid now is sort of in limbo. It's unclear how that food, or if that food, will be delivered to the millions of people who are now on the brink of famine in Gaza. And this has had a chilling effect on other aid groups in the region.
Yeah, and that's by design. Of course it has a chilling effect. If you're going to go and work for any of these humanitarian organizations or try to distribute aid in Gaza, you're going to be a target.
Well, absolutely. And that
Israel will kill you.
Crucial, Heidi. Thank you so much for reminding us of that so many aid groups
have by design
slowed down or completely stopped their aid operations because there have been so many attacks on aid deliveries. That's Heidi Jo Castro reporting from Washington, D.C.
Just pure insanity. It's been 6 months of this. It's been 6 months of this, and every day it's something more depraved and insane than the previous day.
8 immigrants. These 8 immigrants were doing on Key Bridge when it collapsed. While Congress failed to act on President Biden's comprehensive immigration reform, remember he introduced that on the first day of his administration because he understood the importance of fixing immigration, a system that has been broken for decades. His administration has led the largest.
This is just going on right now. I think we might have missed the part where they addressed this.
And we continue to work ensure
bragging about Biden's like draconian right-wing immigration policies that he's trying to pass.
So reforming our immigration system only strengthens our economy. You hear the president talking about that, about making sure that we have an economy that works for everyone, making sure that there's dignity and respect for everyone. And by doing that, it boosts our labor supply. It helps solve workforce shortages and some.
I'll see if there's any highlights from that later.
That we see businesses are facing. And so we took a step forward not too long ago. We spent 2 months working with the Senate, working with Republicans and Democrats.
The World Central Kitchen has suspended aid operations in Gaza after an Israeli airstrike killed 6 international workers from the charity and their Palestinian driver. The aid workers were struck after they left a warehouse in Deir al-Balah, where it had unloaded more than 100 tons of food aid that they had brought into Gaza by ship from Cyprus to help avert a looming famine. The aid workers were driving in a clearly marked convoy branded with the charity's logo. World Central Kitchen said the attack occurred even though the charity had coordinated in advance about the convoy with the Israeli military. The killed aid workers include 3 British nationals, an Australian, a Polish national, and an American-Canadian dual citizen. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese condemned the attack.
We certainly have already contacted the Israeli government directly. We are contacting the Israeli ambassador to ask for accountability here. The truth is that this is beyond any reasonable circumstances. Someone going about providing aid and humanitarian assistance should lose their life. And there were 4 aid workers as well as Palestinian driver in this vehicle. This is a human tragedy that should never have occurred. That is completely unacceptable.
Earlier today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appeared to acknowledge.
As Trudeau said something, I'm not sure if Trudeau did, but Melanie Joly did, and very strongly denounced it and condemned it and demanded an investigation. And like I said, they've already done the investigation's already happened. It's already complete. And the answer was Hamas. There was a Hamas guy around there, so it's their fault. Nothing we can do.
Israel carried out the attack, saying, quote, unfortunately, over the last day, there was a tragic incident of an unintended strike of our forces on innocent people in the Gaza Strip, unquote. The United Nations aid coordinator for the occupied Palestinian territory, Jamie McGoldrick, said, quote, this is not an isolated incident. As of March 20th, at least 196 humanitarians had been killed in the occupied Palestinian territory since October 2023. This is nearly
Excuse me. Why has no one talked about the 135 UN members that have died? I think part of the reason is there's been this like delegitimization of UNRWA to begin with, which is like largely staffed by Palestinians. And there's been like, we just don't care. Like whether they work for the UN or not, when Palestinians are killed, we assume that they deserved it or that's part of it. And there's been this whole effort on the part of Israel, and the West has been complicit in this, to paint the UN and UNRWA as being sympathetic to Hamas or contributing to the October 7th attacks, like what this claim was that led to the defunding of UNRWA. And that's the whole thing, is that like they want to remove UNRWA as the top distributor of aid, and then organizations like the World Central Kitchen are trying to pick up that slack and become like, okay, we're the distributors of aid that aren't supporting of Hamas, right? And they're trying to get those kind of like the ability to do that. And they're getting murdered too. And that's why now it's this big outcry, because now it's foreign aid workers that were involved. Because when it's Palestinians, even when they work for UNRWA, we don't care. No one cares. This is when it leads to a big outcry, is when there's, you know, Western nationals involved.
Nearly 3 times the death toll recorded in any single conflict.
Yeah, Joe, that's the unmistakable
we begin
conclusion.
Today's show in Rafah, Gaza, where we're joined by the Gaza-based journalist Akram Al-Satari. Akram, thanks so much for joining us again. What do you understand took place? Talk about Chef Jose Andres' charity workers who were killed and their driver, what they were doing.
They were helping people. They were trying to secure the food aid for the people in Gaza, whom they were in touch with, whom they were eating with, whom they were in solidarity with, whom they were thinking they deserve to be treated as humans, and they deserve to be safe, and they deserve to be secured. However, they themselves, the ones who were there extending the helping hand, ended up being killed by an Israeli attack, the circumstances of which are not clear yet. Neither to the government of Israel that apparently ordered the attack, no matter what the circumstances are, nor to the Palestinians who have been seeing at least foreigners there with them extending a helping hand and trying to secure a lifeline while their lives were taken by that Israeli attack.
And Akram, how does this happen when reportedly World Central Kitchen was coordinating its efforts and was informing the Israelis of where its aid workers were?
Like, this is psychotic.
Well,
they knew who they were. They were coordinating with them, and they just killed them anyways.
As a matter of fact, many other
and they're like, "What are you going to do about it?"
Aid workers and some
what are you going to do?
Also were affected by the ongoing bombardment. The UNRWA made a specific statement about the number of UNRWA staff who were killed, which is around 166 UNRWA staff who were killed while they are on job, while they're moving from their places to their duty stations, and when they're back from their duty stations to their homes, or even when they are still conducting their job in their duty station, extending a helping hand to the people. The coordinates are very well clear for the Israeli army. This is a protocol that has been followed ever since the war has started. Every single humanitarian aid worker that is extending a helping hand in Gaza, that is coordinating or helping or distributing food or doing anything, is already recognized by the Israeli army. And the incident took place, and I think it's the full responsibility of the Israeli government now to clarify and to provide justification, and not in the sense that justification of the killing itself, but rather demystify the circumstances that led to that catastrophic incident, given that it is not unprecedented event where many others lost their lives because of the way Israeli army has been dealing with the general population in Gaza and with the facilities that are supposed to be protected. As you have just said, the car was marked as a World Central Kitchen car. The staff who are there were already recognized by the Israeli army, and they are very well aware that they are moving while the Israeli army is aware of their very movement. The coordinates of the warehouse that they were entering and leaving in Deir al-Balah is also well known for the Israelis. The place they were unloading the goods and the food items for the people of Gaza are also well known by the Israeli army. However, the incident took place, and I think it's upon the Israeli government to explain to the world and to the different countries, including Canada, USA, Poland, and also Poland, and I think UK, for how this happened and why this happened.
And has there been any improvement in the last week or two of the of supplies coming into Gaza, to especially food and medical supplies?
Well, the food and medical supplies are still like very scarce in the Gaza Strip. The different UN figures have been voicing their concern over the fact that Israel is limiting all the supplies that are entering Gaza. Even more, Israel is being selective about what enters Gaza and what doesn't enter Gaza. The Palestinian health system at large sustained a very big blow, a very big strike when the Al-Shifa hospital was totally destroyed. It lost 800 beds, it lost 100 dialysis machines, and it also lost 1/3 of the therapeutic services throughout the Gaza Strip. So the situation is dire, and it continues to get even worse, and Israel is not willing or is not able to allow more food supplies and medical supplies into the Gaza Strip. Not far away from us is Abu Yusuf al-Najjar Hospital in Rafah. The hospital is suffering because of the fact they have the access to very limited supplies, and they have been calling for the international community, they have been calling for the world, they have been calling even for Israel to allow unhindered access of the medical supplies and food supplies to help the people. They have a place for the people with dialysis that need dialysis machines, and those people have some nutritional need, and those needs are not met. And if the situation continues the way it is, even the urgent and immediate medical needs of those people are not going to be met, which compromises their whole life.
I want to talk about this in the context of the looming famine. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians pushed to the brink of famine right now. AP is reporting Cyprus, which has played a key role in trying to establish a sea route to bring food into the territory, said ships that recently arrived were turning back with some 240 tons of undelivered aid. The World Kitchen, Chef Jose Andres's food charity, was the first to get massive amount of food into Gaza, and now we see what has happened to them. I'm wondering, Akram, are you hungry? Is your family hungry?
This is a very critical question. For you to understand, I am a Gazan. Gazan means I am living the very same circumstances that my people are living. Sometimes it's Ramadan time, and sometimes we eat one meal a day. Sometimes the meal is not as decent as you imagine for someone who's fasting for around 16 hours. This is the situation for most of the people in the Gaza. But to make a difference, people in the south of Gaza are living a little bit better life than the ones who are living in the northern Gaza. The World Central Bank organized that trip with an intention of delivering the 200 tons of food that were delivered initially in the very first pilot trip to Gaza North and Gaza City, where 700,000 Palestinians are besieged and are denied any access whatsoever, except for very limited quantities since 1.5 months up to this particular moment. Now the 1,000 tons that were allowed into, the 200 tons and the 1,000 tons were not allowed into Gaza North and Gaza City, where 700,000 people are waiting for the food. The famine is not looming. The famine is already taking place. We have around 34 Palestinians, adult and young, who died from the starvation. We have many more people who are complaining about the significant loss of their weight. We have people and children who are eager to eat anything whatsoever, anything whatsoever. People in the north ate the grass, ate whatever they can eat. They eat also the animal feed. They are sorting it out, they're cleaning it, they're grinding it, they're making bread out of it. And even when the taste and the smell is not what you expect as a human, they still have to eat it because they don't have any other option. That situation continues to be very dire, and that situation continues to deteriorate. Now, some people organized and formed some special committees for the sake of just receiving the food that is allowed, the minimum food that is allowed.
Milthaudism, I don't know. It's fucking disturbing.
The road between Rafah, Khan Yunis, and Gaza, Salah ad-Din Road, and those people ended up being targeted. 70 of them were killed, and more than 500 Palestinians were killed in different incidents targeting the people around Al-Kuwait roundabout and An-Nabulsi roundabout when they're waiting for the food, when they're waiting for to eat. 20 different incidents of targeting that took the life of 500 Palestinians and 70 of those who are working to organize everything. The way that is now done, the way that this targeting is done indicates that Israel is willing to deprive those people from any hope and any life whatsoever.
I wanted to ask you about the Israeli Prime Minister saying he will ban the award-winning TV network Al Jazeera. This after the the Israeli lawmakers, the Knesset, passed a bill allowing for the temporary banning of foreign broadcasters deemed to be a national security threat. Of course, Al Jazeera is the most widely viewed network in the Arab world.
Get ready for that coming.
One of the few outlets
Get ready for that coming to the West.
Inside Gaza, the way the Arab world
already
sees
started.
what's happening in Gaza, and through Al Jazeera English, the way the rest of the world sees.
There was a video the other day of 4 men just walking who got targeted because they were there. Unarmed men, exactly. Sorry to do Amy Goodman dirty with the pause face there. It's just every day there's yet another clear on video example of like just pure depraved criminality and murder. And every single day we see that, and every single day there's some kind of outcry, or maybe there's not. Sometimes this outcry, like I said, when it comes to this like World Central Kitchen and the fact that there was like Westerners that were targeted, then there's an outcry because when it's just Palestinians, no one seems to give a shit. But every day there's just this another example in the just total flagrant criminality on video. Often like that video that you're talking about too of the men that were just killed when they were walking. They were just basically hunted for sport and killed when they were walking. That wasn't released as part of some investigation. That wasn't released as some like a leak, like a Chelsea Manning WikiLeaks thing. Right? That wasn't a leak. That was just like the Israeli government putting out that footage. Like every day we see shit on TikTok of them doing it themselves. They record it themselves. They record themselves committing these crimes. You forgot Palestinian adult males are all targets because they're probably Hamas. That's right. And like I was saying yesterday as well, and I've said a number of times, this was also the U.S. war on terror policy when it came to targeted drone assassinations and like their war on terror drone attacks under Obama. It was the exact same strategy of retroactively claiming every single military aged male, which is anyone from 13 upwards basically in the vicinity, as being a legitimate target, which they used to kind of like fudge the numbers of the civilians that were constantly murdered in those drone strikes. It's the exact same justification. Yeah, and then we're surprised when American cops target 13-year-old kids and say, "Oh, they looked like they were an adult. I was scared for my life." It's the same mentality. You know what I mean? It's the same mentality domestically and internationally. And I think Israel is just the ultimate example because it's so flagrant and it's so happening just right in front of our faces. But you see, it's the exact same mentality domestically and internationally.
Inside Gaza, the way the Arab world sees what's happening in Gaza, and through Al Jazeera English, the way the rest of the world sees as well. Your thoughts on what this means? I should also add a number of Al Jazeera reporters have been killed.
And their families.
Yes, the issue is that even the Knesset gave that law the name of Al Jazeera law. Al Jazeera law, which means that this is an exclusive decision that has been taken for the sake of stopping Al Jazeera from covering on the grounds of accusation that Al Jazeera is compromising and threatening the Israeli national security. Al Jazeera has reporters inside Palestine, in Gaza Strip, and inside the Israeli territory, and they have been covering the news about the situation. And I think it is the way they have been doing things that provoked the Israeli Knesset members and the Israeli government. Because number one, the military ground operation is not going the way they wanted to go on. And it's now the 6th month that they have been facing significant obstacles achieving what they have been achieved. They have warned the Palestinians of an imminent transfer into the Egyptian side, they have been conducted some of the incidents that were described as genocidal behavior by the experts, and some of the footage that was provided by Al Jazeera was used also by South Africa when South Africa was wording and filing and providing the evidences about the ongoing situation in Gaza Strip. And that's why now Israel is defining Al Jazeera as an enemy and is trying also to chase any other news outlets that might be thinking of providing as comprehensive coverage as the one that Al Jazeera is providing, and which is so recognized by the global community and by the people in Palestine and different areas of the Middle East. So they are trying to stop Al Jazeera, but I don't think that they have the power. And when I say the power, because now we are shifting. When it comes to the media, we have the media of the citizen, we have the social media, and we have many different platforms. The performance that was conducted by Al Jazeera, I don't think is going to be stopped by any plan that Israel develops. The only issue and problem for Israel is that now when they are developing and accepting that law, they are making themselves a mockery, because there is no way to stop any voice from saying what they think is right, as long as we have all the alternative media, we have the social media, and we have the citizens media. And I think they will continue doing what they can do from Gaza, and sometimes they would have alternative sources from inside Israel, and they will continue their message and they will continue their mission.
Well, Akram al-Satri, want to thank you for being with us.
That was a good segment. I got one more thing. I've got a little bit less time to work with today. I have one more. There's an Electronic Intifada video that's about an hour, which is about all the time I have left. I'm going to throw that on. I'm also going to take a little break. Before I take a little break, folks, I'll just remind people again, if you can, please support the stream. As you know, the only way I'm able to do this program every day is by making the little number at the bottom of the screen go up. So if you can, please help me make my number go up. Help support this program and this community. You know, I would appreciate it a lot. Every little bit helps. So please subscribe or gift subs or whatever you can. Whatever you can to support this stream would certainly be very much appreciated by me. If you can. If you can. And of course, when you do subscribe or give subs, you do join Twitch's only two-dimensional triangle-shaped friendship access and trickle-down clout tiered reward system known as the Friendship Triangle. You can get into the base level. You can move up into the Chaos Zone, up to the Elite tier. It's not a cult. It's two-dimensional triangle-shaped. If you can, folks, please subscribe. Before I take a little break here. You should have a Gooner Zone? Maybe, yeah. Maybe that is the Chaos Zone, exactly. Maybe it is. Perhaps it is. Any takers? So far, the call to action has been
You've just become an
mild.
elite member
Oh my goodness!
of the Friendship Triangle.
Squatch Drew, thanks so much for the 5 gifted subs. I really do appreciate all the support over the years. Squatch, thank you so much. We're going to have to get some more Helldivers going again soon as well. Thank you, Squatch Drew, for the 5 gifted subs. Do you have any other takers before I take a little break? Do you have any other takers? I'm going to throw on this new video soon. Rob's mullet stops growing if the sub goal isn't met. No one wants that. I know no one wants that. Is there any other fine
You've
folks?
just become an elite member
goodness.
of the Friendship Triangle.
Comrade Bushy, thank you so much for 5 gifted subs as well. Always coming through. Comrade Bushy, thank you so
You
much
can count on
for
me. You're
5
gonna have
gifted
good
subs.
old Rob to
Truly
talk
an
you
elite
through all
member of the
this.
Friendship Triangle system. And thank you, Joe, as well. Thank you, Joe, for the gifted sub. Also, thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. That new LS-99 energy rocket launcher is great. I don't know if I have seen that. The Quasar cannon is terrific, though. I really like that Quasar cannon. That's my new go-to now. We've got valued community member Dr. Maggot, unsubbed, unfortunately, and dodging gift subs. Dr. Maggot's been very, very... Oh, that's the same thing? Okay. Okay. You had the official, like, military lingo. I'm not even down. I don't even know it enough. We've got very, very supportive community member Dr. Maggot, down bad right now, unsubbed, currently unsubbed, not getting any of the benefits of being part of the Friendship Triangle system. Dr. Maggot dodging gift subs like Neo, exactly.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Risk Inverse, thank you very much for the gifted sub as well. Thank you, Risk Inverse. I'm going to put on this little video. Well, it's not little. It's like an hour long. I hope I can try to get through the whole thing. It's Electronic Intifada, who have just been doing some absolutely incredible work over the last couple of months. In fact, I would like to get both Nora and Ali on this show. I'm going to try and work that out ASAP. But let's get to this video. This promises to be interesting. This video is called "The Zionist Project is Coming to an End," Inshallah. So let me just put that on. I'm going to take a little break. You can vibe out to this video for a little bit. I'll come back. We'll continue watching, and we'll reconvene. We'll reconvene at the end.
And you're watching and listening to the Electronic Intifada live stream. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman. Coming up, we'll have an interview with physician Ben Thompson, and we'll get a full update from John Elmer on the latest military developments in Gaza. But first, Ali, please introduce our first guest.
Thanks so much, Nora. It was so difficult to listen to a lot of that news, but thank you for that very thorough summary. I'm really delighted to introduce Ilan Pape. He's a professor of history at the University of Exeter in the UK and director of the European Centre for Palestine Studies. Many of you will know that Ilan gained renown as one of the new historians, a group of Israeli scholars who in the 1980s shattered long-standing Zionist lies about the founding of Israel and corroborated what Palestinians had been saying all along about the ethnic cleansing and massacres that they survived during the Nakba in 1948. He's the author of many, many books, far too many to mention here, but two of them are A History of Modern Palestine, One Land, Two Peoples, and The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. Ilan is also a regular contributor to the Electronic Intifada. He is, of course, a distinguished scholar, but he's also been a prominent and
I do have some bits,
long-time
so maybe we can get a
advocate and
hype
voice
train
for
while
the
Rob's
liberation
away.
of Palestine from Zionism. And I hope I can also say that I consider Ilan to be a very dear friend as well. Welcome, Ilan.
Hello, Ali, and everyone. It's a great pleasure and honor to be in the live stream with Electronic Intifada, and thank you for your kind introduction.
Thank you, Ilan. First, let me just ask you how you're doing. We're all now, it's more than
you can count on me.
5
You're
months
good
of this
old Rob
genocide,
to talk you
almost
through all
6.
this.
And I just want to ask you how you're doing.
It's very difficult. I find it difficult to concentrate on my regular work. I find it difficult to sleep. I'm fully aware of what goes on. It's heartbreaking. It's infuriating. And all one can do is double or triple our efforts, first of all, to stop the genocide, but continue also the long strategic aim of liberating Palestine. So personally, of course, all of us are preoccupied with this. We are not suffering as the people of Gaza do, but I'm definitely feel the pain, and this is, for me, and I'm 70 years old this year, is the worst period I experienced personally in the history of modern Palestine.
I know that we all feel very similar. Ilan, we're going to discuss a lot of the issues you raised, but first I want to remind you, I'm sure you haven't forgotten, that in 2006 you wrote for the Electronic Intifada, and I quote, "A genocide is taking place in Gaza." You described this later as an incremental genocide, but 18 years ago you wrote these words: "Nothing apart from pressure in the form of sanctions, boycott, and divestment will stop the murdering of innocent civilians in the Gaza Strip. There is nothing we here in Israel can do against it. Brave pilots refused to take part in the operations. 2 journalists out of 150 do not cease to write about it, but this is it. In the name of the Holocaust memory, let us hope the world will not allow the genocide in Gaza to continue." You wrote that in 2006. Clearly, there is nothing incremental about the genocide today. Given your clarity about where Israel was headed back then, are you surprised by the savagery and brutality that Israel is perpetrating today?
I must say that although I did expect a very brutal and ruthless Israeli reaction to the operation of the Hamas on October the 7th, I did not foresee them such a magnitude of inhumanity and such a level of criminality and dehumanization as Israel has inflicted on the people of Gaza. I mean, I did anticipate a very ruthless and violent reaction, but I must say that this is beyond anything I could imagine. And I think you're absolutely right. Whereas I think the years of siege were incremental genocide in the sense of creating conditions which were uninhabitable for people in Gaza. This is a genocide that is taking place in front of our eyes on a daily basis. It's nothing incremental about it, and it's really a vicious, intentional attempt to use the 7th of October as a pretext to deal with what Israel has been unable to deal with, which is the presence of nearly 2 million Palestinians in this part of historical Palestine. And they seem to think that they have now an historical opportunity, and there is no moral inhibition in implementing the idea of removing Gaza or, wiping out or erasing Gaza, the Strip, not just the city, the Strip as a whole, from the map of Palestine.
Ilan, you have a unique perspective as an Israeli who's completely rejected Zionism, and yet Israel is the society you grew up in. Tell us about what you see happening inside Israel 48 today. What are the political and social realities that have brought us to this point where seemingly an entire society is united around the goal of the extermination of a people they've already, for 80 years, a century, subjected to dispossession, occupation, apartheid, and persecution?
In 1999, I wrote an article for the Journal of Palestine Studies examining the Israeli educational system, cultural system, and political system. And I argued in that article in 1999 that the next generations of Israelis who will go through the official Israeli educational system, through the socialization in the army, through the media indoctrination, would become even worse than the early Zionist settlers, become a group of supremacist, racist, a group of people that would inflict disasters not only on historical Palestine, but also in the area around Palestine. I'm afraid I was totally correct in this assessment, and this was based on, analyzing the content of the textbook, the curricula, and the basic messages that young Israeli Jews were getting through the various socialization systems in Israel. So what we see now, namely the fact that more than 97% of the Israelis support the genocide in Gaza, is not surprising, unfortunately. It's a society that is used to dehumanize the Palestinians. Ever since it set foot in Palestine in the late 19th century, in particular when its leaders committed the ethnic cleansing of 1948. You cannot massively kill people. You cannot be totally indifferent to the death of babies, for babies operated without anesthetics, to children burying children, and for your own army committing one war crime after the other, unless you totally dehumanize the victims of these kinds of policies. And dehumanization doesn't come easily to people, contrary to what people think. You need to work on it. You need to socialize people. You need to indoctrinate them to such a level. But this is a fact now. And the fact is that, of course, there are Israeli individuals who are not like that, thank God. There are not all of them like that, but the vast majority are. And this includes the soldiers in the Gaza Strip, the generals, the pundits who comment in the Israeli media about the actions, not to mention, of course, the political leaders. And therefore, we come back to the point we already I made before, that don't expect for a change within Israel to occur in order, if you are wishing, like all of us should wish, for these terrible crimes against the Palestinians to cease. If you really want to stop genocide, and let's not forget the killing of 400 people in the West Bank, if you really want to stop these policies now and those that Israel is planning in the future, the only way is a pressure from the outside. There are moments in history where you cannot rely on a rogue state to change from within, and it has to be pressured to change. And there are the means of doing it, as we have seen in the case of apartheid South Africa and similar cases in history.
We're definitely going to talk about that, but we want to take advantage of your deep knowledge and scholarship and go back to some more historical context. Some 80% of the population in Gaza are refugees from cities, towns, and villages that are now part of Israel, the 1948 areas, including the lands where some of the kibbutzes that were raided on the 7th of October have been built. Talk to us about the history of the so-called Gaza envelope, of the people in Gaza, and what Israel's policy towards them has been.
Yes, I think it's a very important point, Ali, because people may think that there always was a Gaza Strip. Before 1948, there was no Gaza Strip. There was a town called Gaza and small and large villages around it. On the road, the Via Maris, the main road on the Mediterranean between Alexandria in Egypt and Alexandretta in Turkey. It was a very pastoral place and very cosmopolitical, because so many people were using the road and going through Gaza. It had all three religions were represented in the town of Gaza: the Muslims, the Christians, and the Jews, and it was quite a beautiful spot in historical Palestine. When Israel began its ethnic cleansing, it was trying to massively move people outside the borders of what became the state of Israel. So people were moved, Palestinians were moved to the north, to Lebanon and Syria, and to the east, to Jordan. However, the hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who were removed and pushed by force from the center and south of Palestine were directed towards Egypt, but Egypt was unwilling to accept the Palestinian refugees. So the Israeli leaders decided to concede, in inverted commas, 2% of Palestine, although they had the power to occupy it, and create this rectangle that became the Strip as a receptor for all these hundreds of thousands of Palestinians that they have expelled from the central and south of Palestine. Now, the last wave of expulsion was exactly from those villages on whose ruins some of the settlements that were attacked on the 7th of October were built. We have in the Israeli archive a document from the 25th of November 1948 called Order Number 40, which is sent from the Central Command to the commanders in the area that today would be called the area around Gaza. And it lists 11 villages, and the order is to burn them and expel the people from them to Gaza. On the ruins of these villages, the settlements were built. So what you have in Gaza is a second and a third generation of people who were not just removed forcefully from the rest of Palestine, but also people who are direct descendants of the people who were expelled from the villages on which the kibbutzim and development towns were built around the present Gaza Strip.
And also, Ilan, talk about, and by the way, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about a story I'd written with David Sheen, which focused on, I think it was Kibbutz Nir Oz, which is one of several kibbutzes built on the land of Al-Ma'in, a Palestinian community, which was largely the home of members of the Abu Sittah family, including Salman Abu Sittah, who has written himself about what he witnessed in 1948 as a child. And the land of Al-Ma'in and the Abu Sittah family is now where several of these kibbutzes sit. Talk to us also about the city of Al-Majda, Al-Asqalan, which is now Ashkelon, because I think many people know that most of the Palestinians were expelled in 1948, starting in 1947, in 1948. But the expulsions did not stop after 1948, after the establishment of the State of Israel. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. And it was not out of a strategic decision because of technical issues that had to do with some problem of coordination in the Israeli army. The thousands of people who lived in Majd al-Asqalan were not expelled in 1948, and they were instead enclaved in an area which the Israeli military.
And I'm so sorry, but thank you to Barbara for the gifted sub 13 minutes ago. Thank you, Barbara. I saw that there was some talk in the chat about how I could have been pranked by people subscribing while I was on a break, and I'm thankful that that didn't happen because I would have been really pissed off if I had come back here to that. That would have been very frustrating. So, thankfully, that didn't materialize. But thanks, Barbara, for the gifted sub.
Governors themselves called the ghetto, and in the ghetto in Majd al-Asqalan, in the ghetto, most of the population of Majd al-Asqalan lived between 1948 until 1950. And while they were living in those enclaves, the Israeli Jewish city of Ashkelon was built around them. In 1950, it was the Israeli army decided to, or it was rather a political decision by the government led by David Ben-Gurion, that this is not a very healthy situation for the new immigrants who were sent to Ashkelon, many of them coming from Arab countries, and there was always a worry that the Arab Jews and the Palestinians might find a common conversation, a common basis for a dialogue and so on. So it was decided to forcefully add them to the people who were already refugees in the Gaza Strip. And because this is 1950 and there's already new reporters, Israeli reporters and other reporters, we have quite an extensive documentation on the very process of the expulsion, namely the fact that people were shot above their heads to make sure that they leave. ironically, Israel was expelling thousands of people who were regarded as citizens of Israel, according to the Independence Declaration of the State of Israel, boasting equality for everyone. And the only reason that they were expelled was that they were Palestinians. And that is important. And as you rightly say, this did not only happen in Ascalon, in Majd al-Ascalon. Between 1948 and 1967, and especially in the first 10 years of Israel's statehood, dozens of Palestinian villages were emptied by force by the Israeli army on the borders with Lebanon, Jordan, and expelled to the other side of the border.
You mentioned, Ilan, that many of the people that Israel moved into the former lands and homes of the Palestinians around what is now the Gaza Strip were Arab Jews. Talk about that. Why did they send Arab Jews to those areas? And what role did Arab Jews play in the establishment of Israel?
Yeah. Israel, I mean, the Zionist movement original impulse was to create a European Jewish state on the ruins of Palestine. And until 1948, the Zionist leadership showed very little interest in the Jewish communities in the Arab world for two reasons. One, these communities did not suffer from anti-Semitism, and therefore there was no impulse in those communities compared to the communities in Central and Eastern Europe in particular to leave a place where they lived for hundreds, and in the case of Iraq, thousands of years. So that's one reason that it was not easy to induce them anyway to come. And secondly, until 1948, they were regarded as Arabs, and therefore there was no wish by the European Zionist leadership to Arabize the Zionist project, so to speak. However, after the Holocaust and the loss of 6 million Jews in Europe, and the fact that a lot of Jewish survivors from the Holocaust did not choose Israel as a destination, and prefer to go to England, the United States, or even go back to some of the European countries from which they originally came, there was a demographic need, or Israel wanted a demographic injunction to increase the number of Jews in Israel. And there, after 1948, Israel began a massive campaign to try and persuade the Jews from Arab countries to come to
Posting
Israel.
the video in the chat to make sure everyone gives it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed
use
to
all kinds of
Electronic
methods,
Intifada.
different ones. We don't have time, and maybe one day we can have a deeper conversation about it. But I will just give two examples to show how different communities had to be approached differently by Israel. In Yemen, where the community was far more religious, they spread the ideas and lied to the Jews of Yemen that Israel is a very theocratic religious place where Jews can practice Judaism, which of course was not the case in 1948. And in Iraq, they planted bombs in Iraqi synagogues in order to persuade the Jews to come to Israel. However, after they all came, about 1 million of them, they were still regarded by the Zionist leadership as Arabs. So they had to be de-Arabized. And there were several methods that were used to de-Arabize them. One was to locate them on the geographical margins of the state near the boundaries with the Arab states, where it was very clear that these were very active borders in terms of frictions and clashes. And that the hope was that it would increase their animosity towards the Arabs in general. Another way of doing it was to force them to change their names, to be totally alien to their roots and language, and so on. Unfortunately, even without that indoctrination, many, and especially this is particularly true about the North African Jews, they felt that the best way to be initiated or to be accepted as equals in the Israeli European Jewish society was to show animosity and hatred towards the Arabs in general and towards the Palestinians in particular. And that is why the right-wing parties in Israel, the more fascist parties and the more extreme ones, can rely on, especially North African Jews, to provide with them the electoral force in national elections. So they were used. They are victims, as Ella Shochad rightly says. They're also victims of Zionism. However, as can happen in societies, they instead of directing their anger and their outrage towards the people who really victimized them, they thought that it's easier to direct it towards the Palestinians who had nothing to do with their suffering, with their uprootedness and a lack of equality within the Israeli Jewish society.
Ilan, I want to talk a little bit more about the kind of strategic location of these kibbutzim in the so-called Gaza envelope area, and how the Israeli state has used these colonial settlements as kind of ramparts for military surveillance of the Gaza Strip. Can you talk a little bit about the strategy of Israeli policy of placing these seemingly innocuous farmland, sort of they were branded as like a socialist utopia, these kibbutzes. But
you get the sense that Bernie still kind of believes that this idea
intention was there in building them so close,
even when he critiques Israel.
What's now the Gaza Strip.
Well, this is typical of settler colonial movements. The settler colonial project is a structure; it never stops, and it has to occupy a land that belongs to indigenous people and occupy it again and again, because there's always a risk that the indigenous people would not sit peacefully when they are dispossessed from their land. So what happens is that you totally militarize the civil space. So any settlement, especially on the borderline between areas that have already been colonized and areas that haven't been yet colonized, those who sit on the border, on the one hand, they are civilians and they lead civic life, but on the other hand, they are also soldiers, they are also military, and therefore they carry guns and they are functioning as outposts in a military sense towards the so-called enemy. So I think that they play a very important role in the colonization. First of all, historically, they played a very important role in the colonization. And of course, they play a contemporary role in policing the millions of Palestinians. In between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean, there are millions of Palestinians. And Israel polices them in different ways. It uses the Jewish settlements in the West Bank in a similar way to be part of the policing of the oppressive metrics of power, alongside military bases, alongside the secret service operation, and unfortunately also with collaboration with the Palestinian Authority in some places. And inside Israel, they're using the Jewish settlements in the Galilee and in the Nakab in a very similar way. So, they tried to do it in Gaza as well until 2005, but because Gaza doesn't mean much biblically, they couldn't get a large number of Jews to settle in Gaza itself. And that's when Sharon said it's much better to take them out and create this huge prison called Gaza and attack it from the outside without worrying of the fate of the settlers in the inside. If you think about it, the Hamas in many ways enabled us to go back to that situation where this pharmaceutical Israeli idea that Gaza can be totally disassociated from Israel and only be attacked without any danger to Israel, the Hamas always challenged that. First with the Hamas, with the rockets, and now with this particular operation. So I think yes, it's a kind of a reality where probably best described as Israel being an army with a state rather than a state with an army.
Ilan, we could talk about, the history and the context is so important to understanding the present day because, Israel and its supporters want us to believe history started on October 7th. And that's always, history starts from whatever moment is most suitable to those powerful and to the oppressors. But you were so prescient all those years ago when you wrote about genocide in Gaza, and it wasn't a word that anyone used lightly about Israel's actions. It was almost unimaginable at that time to think that the International Court of Justice could be considering a case very seriously as to whether Israel is perpetrating genocide, and they've already found that it is a plausible case and ordered Israel to stop all genocidal acts, which of course Israel hasn't done. I want to ask you, thinking about the situation in Israel, where do you see things heading? What will it take to stop this genocide? What can pierce this fanaticism of
Next stop,
this
Lebanon,
Israeli
Greater
population?
Israel.
You alluded to that earlier, but I want you to explore that more.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
After this, I'm going to have to.
Well, I'm afraid that we have to, as painful as it is, distinguish between the very near future and the more distant future. I'm afraid that in the near future, although it seems that Israel is acting in such a way that we begin to see actions like the Canadian government's decision to stop suspend arms supplies to Israel and so on, that, in terms of the BDS movement, we are beginning to see the sanctions, and not just the boycott and divestment. But as we can notice, first of all, it's incremental, it's piecemeal, and we don't even know whether it's really happening. Not that I'm underestimating the symbolic force of that. So I think it might have an accumulative impact on Israel, but knowing the Israeli society, it would have to be far more severe, far more direct, far more transparent that this is really happening. And it has to do with the treatment of Israeli sports teams in the world, music, arms sales, and so on. And, whereas maybe the global south would move a bit quicker, I think, towards that kind of action, I'm afraid that the global north would take far more time, not to mention the United States, and God knows what the American elections would mean for that kind of action. So I'm afraid, if I'm
This
very
US
honest,
election is going to be
if I'm
insane.
bitterly honest, I
Is that going to be the
cannot
breaking point?
an effective international action within a year or year and a half. I can see it later on. But by the way, I don't want to sound as if I would raise my hands and say there's nothing we can do because of that. No, I'm just saying that if we cannot be observers and think that this is a dynamics that happen by themselves. It means every one of us who is involved in this should double and triple their efforts, and not kind of take for granted that the ICJ and later the ICC or other organization are strong enough at this moment in time to force Israel. There's also another problem with Israel. It can seem to accept certain things, and then it does them incrementally, does them, in a different way. But from the Palestinians' victims' point of view, it's the same kind of thing. So I wish I had a successful formula for the next year or so. I see that the resistance continues. I think that we should pay attention to a possible more severe resistance in the West Bank. We don't yet know what will happen in the north of Israel or Palestine, but I think we have to take into account that you do not stop such a criminal act in one day. And it's terrible to say it because I know what it means on a daily basis. But I want to be brutally realistic here and not, not promise something that isn't. But if I may, I do really believe, and this I say as a scholar, not just as an activist, I really, and I said it before, and I'm going to say it again in every stage. As a scholar, I can see clear indications that the Zionist project is entering its last phase. It's the beginning of the end of this project. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable.
End of Israel in
from
our lifetimes.
from looking at it from the inside, the Jewish society. It's imploding from the inside. There is no cement that holds the various groups in Israel together. It's not sustainable because I think young Jews all over the world would stop equating Zionism with Judaism. It's not sustainable because the Palestinian younger generation have a much better vision and ideas of how to push forward the liberation struggle. And it's not sustainable because of Israel's economic problems and the possibilities of changes in the region, and definitely in the way the international community treats Israel as a pariah state. However, these processes will take more time, but they will happen. So there is a kind of a dawn after this dark night, but I would be irresponsible if I would say that I know exactly how to end this night, terrible period today. But I do want to beseech anyone who's listening to us. It's working in a sense that you cannot see the full picture, but it works if it's relentless, if it doesn't stop, if everything we are doing is done 24/7 as much as we can, because I do think the more cumulative the impact is, the shorter the period in which Israel finally would be held to be accountable and maybe begin to pay the price that apartheid South Africa paid during the beginning of the sanctions when they started. The civil society actions of boycott and divestment are very important, but I think that we need to find a way of moving, as I said, between the B and D to the S. I think that's a very crucial idea. And if I may add to this, of course, we're still looking desperately at the Arab world and the Muslim world to do much, much more. And they really can do much more than they have done so far, without going into the domestic issues of their politics. Even with the current regimes that are there, I don't think they have exhausted their possibilities of lending an effective hand to the overall efforts in the world to stop the genocide as soon as possible.
I mean, that's going to be the big question: if citizens in those places kind of end up forcing the hand of the leadership to actually start to take stronger stances. You know, if there's some kind of new Arab Spring situation that pops up, and who knows what's going to happen, but like, it does seem like there's like a frustration that's starting to boil over in these places like Jordan and Egypt, with their government's complicity in the genocide. That's all for this video. There's another 30 minutes of this video. It's really, really interesting stuff. Incredible historical background and analysis. I got to get going soon, but please do click through to the video, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you're subscribed to Electronic Intifada's YouTube channel. I mean, the work that they've been doing has just been absolutely crucial for me and many other people around the world over the last 6 months. In understanding what this conflict is about and understanding what Israel really is. So they really need your support. I've got to get going. I've got to go pick up my kid from school. On Tuesdays, I have a little bit less time to work with. So I'm going to have to leave now. Oh boy. No. Almost thought I had a sneeze there going. I've got to get going soon, folks. Thanks everyone for tuning in to the stream today. As always, it's very much appreciated. if there's anyone else that wants to support this program, there's still a little bit of time. I'm off to the smoked meat shack. Very nice. You know I love putting some smoked meat in my mouth. Everyone knows how much I love that. So folks, there's still time to support this stream. If you can, please subscribe if possible. If you're an unsub member, if you're a beloved elite level community member, please subscribe or give subs if you can. I really do try to make that little number at the bottom of the screen go up every single day that I do this. It's the only way that I'm able to continue doing this show each and every day. So if you can, please do subscribe or give subs or tip or bits or whatever it is to support TRRS. It would really help me out a lot. It means a lot. I appreciate it a lot. And we become friends when you subscribe to this program. We become friends. Me and you. And it's not parasocial. It is real. Love you, Rob. Please make sure that the committee takes note of mine and Joe's efforts to push the number up. It's been noted and appreciated. Okay? It's been passed along to my superiors, and they've noticed your efforts and appreciate it. But if there's any other fine individuals that want to support this channel, there's still time to do so. Please subscribe if you can, or give subs, or whatever you can do. Every little bit helps, and I appreciate it a whole lot. Huh? A mere 15 subs away. That could be one brave hero could step in and get us there. Not all at once. Those are those classic Rob Rousseau calls to action. The classic Rob calls to action just immediately inspires everybody. Immediately inspires everybody. Don't all subscribe at once. Don't all subscribe at once. That can cause problems with the pipes. That's how they get clogged. Oh. I think yesterday I felt a little bit less tired for once, and now I'm back. I'm back to just being completely exhausted. This man has expected us to lead us to victory against the automatons. Yeah, that's right. And follow me to war if you want to, if you can, if possible. You know, no pressure. Everyone's like, you know what? I'm gonna stay behind. Actually, I'm gonna stay behind the lines. You go ahead. You enjoy though. You go to town. Yes, I would like to dive. I would like to do some diving tonight. If Squatch and Marty are down, it'd be good to reconnect. Still another 30 seconds. Still another 30 seconds for even one person. For even one person to respond to this call to action. There's still time. Sir, surely it won't be just a completely failed call to action, right?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And now my own long-suffering mods are forced to be the one to come through. Marty, thank you. I love you. Thank you, Marty.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.